Easy and accessible mobility that reduces the carbon footprint is something that every city should and needs to be looking at. And you think it's a smart priority. Yet, with so many roadblocks, it just doesn't seem as easy as riding a scooter. Hi, I'm your host, Eddie Busset. On today's episode, we talk with Arda, co-founder at Roll, the leading shared e-scooter company in Canada, where we discuss the ups and downs of green mobility business, the aha moments, and so much more. Hi, Arda. How are you?
Hi, Oliver. Good. Yourself?
Very good. Thank you. Okay, let's give us an introduction about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Arda. I'm a recent University of Toronto grad. I graduated last. I studied machine learning and data science. I have a more technical background, but I'm doing more business-related stuff these days. And in my third year of study, I co-founded Roll. Roll is the only Canadian-owned, developed, and operated shared micromobility company. We operated our e-scooters in many communities across Canada: Calgary, Ottawa, St. Albert, Red Deer, Cochrane, Kelowna, British Columbia. And we're looking forward to launching in more communities across Canada.
Excellent. So what was the aha moment, the sort of spark that made you decide to go that route and start Roll Scooters?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so we started this company in 2019, and at that time there was no other e-scooter operator in Canada. And in fact, well, shared e-scooters and e-bikes were really new to a lot of different countries, communities. In US, it was popular. In Europe, it was really popular too. And then we didn't have any e-scooters or e-bikes, shared e-bikes at that time, a dockless model. And I met Richard. He's our CEO. He's also a U of T graduate, and we thought about this. And his family background is actually manufacturing, e-scooter manufacturing, e-bike manufacturing. So we use this background to build a really good product because we knew that it was coming at some point. And there's a really good opportunity in Canada, cities like Toronto, Vancouver, other urban communities. And yeah, we decided to build our own product, our own software. We added new team members along the way, and yeah, we launched our first fleet in 2019 in Kelowna, British Columbia. We tested our product; everything was really good, and then we launched in other cities. So yeah, there's no one aha moment, but it was more like seeing the opportunity and seeing the fact that it was popular in other countries. So why not having the same structure in Canada?
Yeah, that's interesting. And did your co-founder, the CEO, because of his background as a manufacturer, did that influence your decision to go that route, or was it just haphazard? Oh, wow, you actually do this?
Absolutely. That was a main factor. And I think we were really privileged in that sense because other companies were using commercial models in the early days of micromobility. And we built our own product, which was the best product in the market, still the best product in the market. We built it for shared environment specifically so that it's not going to get broken in just a few uses. And yeah, we made it happen thanks to our CEO's family background.
Yeah, that's great. And so now looking at roadblocks, did you guys have any government roadblocks or issues with the deployment of this? Because I know in the city of Montreal there was an attempt, and that actually had many roadblocks. A lot of citizens didn't like them, and other people loved them.
Yeah, actually a lot because Canadian governments are really conservative. And we're really behind of a lot of different technologies. Even now, City of Toronto just recently banned delivery robots on sidewalks. Uh, they also banned e-scooters, even personal ones too. So governments are really conservative when it comes to these emerging technologies. They're taking a conservative approach, but there's always an opportunity. When we were talking to governments, we said this is our solution to those problems. For improper parking, for example, it's one of the main problems. We said after the trip you have to take a picture, and these pictures are analyzed by using machine learning and AI algorithms so that we know whether that scooter is parked properly or not. And if it's not, then we can ban the rider, we can fine them, and we have been doing this. For other problems like sidewalk riding, we have sensors. We're using GPS and other exclusive technologies to detect it. So we provided these solutions to them, and then at the end of it, they were convinced, and we created a policy framework based on other countries and other mistakes that are learned. And yeah, we convinced them. We launched several pilots in communities, different communities. And yeah, so for entrepreneurship, I think there's always going to be roadblocks and barriers. but it's an important part of my job to find ways to how to find ways around all those different problems. And yeah, I think that's a really, really important part of my job.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it sort of leads into our next question. If you can go back and leave yourself a 30-second voicemail to tell you what not to do and what to do, is there anything that you would say, yeah, watch out for this or change?
Yeah. So first of all, this is my first company, first startup. So in the beginning, we believe in our product, we believe in everything, but we were really optimistic. Personally, I was the most optimistic person. We had a lot of different ideas, a lot of different. I think it's passion and ambition too, but along the way, I realized that sometimes you need to be a little bit pessimistic or realistic, not pessimistic all the time. But yeah, so I would say don't be optimistic all the time. Always be cautious. Try to think out of the box and try to predict the challenges, possible challenges. And yeah, so I would say this.
Yeah, that's so true. I think over optimism is not the best thing certainly in Canada and startups.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the questions I always ask people, certainly for their startup and for their business, is what's their Northern Star? So, what is your ambition? What's your ultimate goal? Is it world domination of e-scooters, or is it mobility, or are you going to look for different types of mobilities on the road? So, what's your Northern Star for roll scooters?
The optimal goal is to reduce the dependency on cars because climate change is a fact and it's growing every day. There's like last year we have seen a lot of wildfires, floods. Climate is changing, and we want to reduce the dependency on cars and providing a sustainable way and cleaner way of commuting and transportation, and that's our optimal goal. And also along the way we want to add more modes, not just e-scooters but e-bikes, maybe vehicles, electric vehicles, and different mopeds. That's our optimal goal in the long term.
That's really interesting. So, what's one strategy that you guys have done to really build your business to get a whole bunch of users and people to adopt and use your services? Certainly out in certain of the cities that you have that have snow and everything. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So the good thing about our business is we don't need a lot of marketing because our product is actually on the street. So people see it, they interact with the product in the real time, real world. So we didn't do a lot of marketing and we didn't spend a lot of resources on, but of course we did a lot of engagement because we need to tell this. Usually when we launch in a city, it's the first time that people are seeing a dockless scooter. Some people even thought, oh, there's a scooter laying here, and a lot of people try to steal them. We have GPS trackers. Sometimes we had to knock on the doors. Some people just said, "Oh, it says a free unlock." We have hang tags on scooters. It says free unlock, which is basically if you enter the code, you will get a free unlock, and you can ride it for less. And some people thought, "Oh, it's for free." They just put it in the trunk and they went somewhere else, and we had to track them down and knock on the door. So we had a lot of different stories too. But yeah, so one thing that I did was engaging with the community, that specific community on Reddit, on Facebook groups. There are a lot of community groups on Facebook, and we engage with them there. Also using traditional media, TV shows and articles, media outlets. Those were our main strategies when we were trying to engage with the community.
that's really interesting. And sort of, I guess you sort of explained your marketing that you don't need as much because obviously your product is very visible. And I'm assuming word of mouth is big. But now looking at it from the point of view of expanding to a new city, do you guys have a go-to strategy that you're going to be building? Let's say if you're going to go to Toronto and sort of have to influence not only the people that are going to be consumers, but as well as government and officials to allow your e-scooters to be on the streets. So do you guys have a strategy in place or you're building one up?
Yeah, that's a really big one, especially for bigger cities like Toronto, Vancouver. We're actually doing it right now. Last year in 2019, we lobbied the government in a lot of different ways. So basically, we talk to them, we talk to councils, we talk to staff, we talk to mayor, and we try to convince them. We say these are our solutions to those problems that you're telling us with insurance, with improper parking, sidewalk riding, everything. We provide solutions to those things. And we work with local board of trades as well because they also have a really good power. They have a really good voice in the council as well. We talk to different business members, local business improvement, different communities, bike communities, and different organizations that can help us. And eventually, we also talked to other companies too. For Toronto, we had an idea to create a coalition to lobby the government together. But it's sometimes really hard. It's private business, and some companies are not willing to put a lot of resources. But yeah, so that's our main strategy. Also, media as well. There's a lot of media on Toronto Star and other Toronto outlets as well. But sometimes it's really hard. It's some people they really hate scooters. They had some bad experience in some other city or country, and they just don't want to have it. But this technology, this shared micromobility is growing really fast. There's new technologies, new solutions pretty much every day. So when they try to compare their experience from maybe 2 3 years ago, it's not the same anymore. So that's what we're trying to explain. But yeah, so right now, unfortunately, we don't have scooters in Toronto. We don't have scooters in Vancouver. It takes time.
So it's a work in progress. So you really have to sort of get to the heart of the people to push to have your e-scooters, because you're sort of in a unique situation that you can't just put your product out there. You need government approval.
Exactly.
So it's a bit different. Yeah. A little bit of a shift here, but what excites you about your field? What do you feel very, hopeful about your field, or what concerns you in general about your field?
Yeah, great question. So we're a startup. When we launch in a city, we actually go there as co-founders. Not all of us, but I go to all the launches, and we sometimes deploy our scooters ourselves. And I think this is really important. Just an example, I think DoorDash is creating a program that will allow all the employees to do delivery, corporate employees as well. I think this is a really, really smart strategy. We also try to do this ourselves. And yeah, so we deploy sometimes, we go around and talk to people ourselves. And when I see those people, riding our scooters with a huge smile on their face, that makes me happy. And that's really rewarding as an entrepreneur. So that makes me really happy. That's the best thing we see when we launch. And other than that, we look at it and we see how much carbon we are saving, people are saving using our scooters compared to using cars, and other metrics as well. So those are really, really exciting for us. We're actually reducing the car dependency on some of the cities. And in Kelowna, in other cities, we're reporting that every 3 scooter trips replace 1 car trip. So that's really interesting. But there are sometimes concerns over, as you mentioned, our business is basically, we need to obtain a permit first to operate. So it's not like we can just go to a city and deploy our scooters. So that's concerning. And there's a lot of government regulations around this. So one day a government can say, okay, we're not going to allow e-scooters anymore because this company, they don't look at companies specifically, but if one company is having some problem with their operations, if they're not responsible enough, that's going to affect the whole program. So this is concerning. So the government might say, okay, we're not going to allow e-scooters anymore. And well, something similar to this happened in Toronto. They just banned all the electric scooters, regardless of whether rental or based on the experiences from other cities. And staff was also, the report that staff brought was really not balanced. And even one councillor pointed this out as well. So yeah, regulations are the concerning part of our business.
I can imagine. So on that note, where do you see Roll Scooter in the next 2-3 years?
As I mentioned before, we are the only Canadian-owned, developed and operated company in this space. So this makes us unique in a way that we're the only Canadian company. When we talk to cities, we mention this and they like it. But we are seeing a lot of consolidation in the space and a lot of mergers, acquisitions recently, especially for smaller startups. So it might happen. We might see less scooter companies in the next 5 years. We might see new modes of transportation. Maybe we're not going to see e-scooters anymore, but there's going to be a different mode. If like 5 years ago, if someone told you we're going to see shared e-scooters without any docking station, and it's an electric scooter, you can just use it without propelling yourself, it would have been really futuristic. But we have it now. So maybe in the next 5 years, we might see new modes. Maybe like e-mopeds, there's e-mopeds, e-bikes still, but maybe different modes that we can share in an environment like Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. So yeah, that's what I think that we will see in the next five years.
Well, it sounds very interesting, and I honestly think it's going to go that direction. And I believe that governments are going to have to yield and give some space, certainly with their ambition goal to reduce carbon So it's going to be really interesting to see where it all goes.
Yeah.
So we're going to move along to you now instead of just a company. And I'd like to ask you some questions about you as an entrepreneur. So one of the questions I always ask people is, what makes you more productive?
This is more like, I wouldn't say this is personal, but having scrum meetings, daily scrum meetings early in the morning is really productive for me, because we set the goals. This is what we're trying to achieve, and this is what we're going to do. So I become more productive if I actually have specific targets, specific goals within a time frame. And then using some tools like Notion, I use Notion a lot. It also keeps me really productive and effective when I keep track of my progress in terms of the tasks. But yeah, that's the main thing. Having daily scrum meetings, it's really productive for me with the other team members.
Yeah. So always every day having a scrum meeting with your team, keeping on track. That's excellent. What makes you unproductive? What's the one thing that you sort of, you procrastinate? So your little bad habit that keeps you off from getting your things done?
I think it's related to motivation. If you don't have enough motivation to what you're doing, then you're not going to be happy about it, and you're probably going to procrastinate, and you're not going to work on it. So having that motivation is really important. And I would say this, to be honest, if you're not feeling motivated enough, then you need to consider whether you're doing the right thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. I hear that all the time from people. So what is something that you do daily that gives you an edge?
I would say meditation, even though I haven't been doing for a while. It's like if you're doing something, and if you're doing something, let's say every day, and then if you don't do it for a few days, it's broken. Like for me, it's really hard to start that pattern again. But I used to do meditation a lot, which helped me a lot in terms of concentration. It just made me feel relaxed, especially during COVID-19, where there's nothing outside and you have to work and it's stressful. It helped me a lot to do meditation. Reading is also important to broaden the perspective and thinking. It helps you to help understand other perspectives, and helps you with the critical thinking as well. Yeah, I think those would be the things.
Yeah, that's really interesting. For myself, it's journaling. I do journaling
Mm,
every day, but not on weekends, only every work day. I start my work day with a
mm,
journal, and I sort of look back at what I was the day before, what I had said I was going to do, and how I was feeling. And I sort of track my mood, and I track my health, and I track different things. And it helps me sort of focus and clear my mind to start my day and do things. And sometimes when I read them in the past, I start realizing like, oh, I was supposed to do this like a month ago and I still haven't done it. I'm just going to get rid of it.
mm. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So what is one technology that your company uses that you couldn't live without, either a software or a piece of hardware or something that you could not as a company live without?
I There's nothing critical, to be honest. There's always alternatives, and there's like different tools. But for me, I use Notion a lot. It's really productive. You have a lot of different tools on Notion. And another tool it's called Streak. It shows you whether someone viewed your email, when they viewed your email. We're not a sales company, but it still helps. Well, we're doing sales sometimes, when we talk to governments, it's also part of sales. But yeah, so it's also really useful whether that person actually looked at your email. Yeah, those are yeah, I think those are the tools that are critical.
Excellent. Is there anything that you personally couldn't live without, like your phone or something that is your everyday use that if you lost it, that's it? You'd be like,
I mean, phone is, yeah, it's important, but you can replace it. You can get a new phone. But I'm thinking of something that I wouldn't be able to live without, that specific thing. Yeah, phone. If I'm not going to be able to replace it, yeah, like I want to see what's going on, and it's not. I'm not proud of this, to be honest. It's addiction at some
yeah.
point. But yeah, nothing specific.
Now, a phone comes up a lot whenever I ask this question. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
say, "Oh, without my phone, yes, we could be replaced," but the idea is to be out of it for a couple hours. It's weird. I constantly check emails, certainly because I do this podcast and I still have a job and I do other projects that I'm constantly paying on different times. I don't have a
Mm,
steady like my mornings are this and my afternoons are this. It's constantly just flowing. And if I lose my phone or I don't have access to my phone, And for me
Right.
as well, I wear glasses to read. And so what happens
Yeah.
if I forget my glasses, I can't see what people are saying. So it's actually even worse. So it's kind of like my glasses and my phone now have become the pair.
I see. No, I can relate. I'm also wearing glasses. Yeah.
All right. One of the questions I always ask everybody, because this is one of my fascination, is what is one business book that you've read that you would encourage people to read that really sort of shaped your entrepreneur and your business?
There's not one book specifically, but Lean Startup is a really good one. I learned a lot. There's another one from a Techstars person. Let me quickly look at it. I forgot the name. Yeah. So it's called Venture Deals. It gives you, it's not, it's a book that gives you a lot of information about how to talk to investors, if there's an acquisition deal, how to negotiate, a lot of information about investment. So that's kind of a really, really important book for entrepreneurs to read. And Lean Startup, that's also really, really a good resource, I think. But yeah, there's nothing specific. Like, I wouldn't say just read this one book and you're going to know everything.
No,
But yeah, and also, uh, I mean, not entrepreneurship related, but uh, learn about some other entrepreneurs' lives, like Elon Musk's book, other people's book. It will give some different perspective, and you will understand their journey and how they became a really successful business person people.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I like Lean Startup. I often refer it for case points. That's something I found annoying about books, and certainly Lean Startup is one of them. So a lot of what
Mhm.
they said is no longer is relevant. And it's interesting when somebody reads it and they come back and say, "Oh, we could do this." It's like that's actually kind of gone. No one does that anymore. And it's interesting. So, but yeah, it's a good book. I think every entrepreneur should at least read it once. One last question I always like to ask people: is there a business quote you motivate your team?
Yeah, it's "You Don't Know What You Don't Know" by Elon Musk. It's really true, and there's a lot of things that we don't know, and we don't know that fact either. So that gives me more, uh, passion and more ambition to learn more things and improve my skills. So yeah, I think that's really, really important to know.
Excellent. How can people reach out and connect with
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, my email as well. It's also on my LinkedIn too. But yeah, LinkedIn would be the best place.
you? Perfect. Listen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and having a chat with us and talking about roll scooters. And we'd love to hear what you guys are doing in a year and circle back and see how things are going.
Thanks,
So
Oliver.
thanks again.
Thank you, Oliver.
I want to thank you for joining us today. We hope that these podcasts give you some insights from the stories and experiences of the founders, entrepreneurs, and business owners who share with us. And we hope that you find some useful takeaways that help you along your own business journey. Like always, please follow and leave us a review. Until next time.